Hi everyone, welcome to day 27 of the speaking challenge. So instead of talking about my appreciation and my gratitude toward people around me who I do respect and I do love, such as my friends, relatives, my family, partners, etc., I'd prefer to talk a little about English tenses such as past perfect continuous, and past perfect in passive voice. Because first I promised in one of my previous videos to make at least two videos about English tenses, and I really want to complete this task and feel free. And second, I think that my friends and people who know me and love me forgive me for this decision because they know how I do love them and how I thankful and grateful for everything. So, and I really has still been struggling with English tenses, and I want to really get rid of this problem and never get back to it again. So, if to talk shortly about past perfect continuous, and past perfect in passive voice, I would outline some similarities between them and some differences. Uh, if to talk about similarities, I would say that all of them assume to talk about two action within the one sentence, right? Um, but the difference is that we how to say, we use or we stress on the different things when we use these tenses, right? For example, when we use past perfect, we mostly emphasize on the complete action in the past, right? Or on the result, on the concrete result. And we also can stress on the duration of an action in the past before something else. But once again, we're talking about the past, right? If to talk about past perfect continuous, we mostly emphasize on the duration of an action that happened in the past, right? So, and the second one, when we use past perfect continuous, we talked about a cause of an action that happened in the past. So for that reason, we can use a keyword like because, right? Because. Mm, and past perfect, I think, is much more easier to understand because in past perfect we talk again about an action in the past, but we just replace subject and object, and the sentence can sound then a little bit more, how to say, formal, I would say, like that, or less emotional. But I think it depends on the situation in which we want to use past perfect in a passive voice, right? So, but for all of them, past perfect, past perfect continuous, past perfect in passive voice, they all can, they all, how to say, they all have a common thing. These are keywords such as when, before, after, already, because these are keywords that helps us like to separate two actions and to understand which happened first and which one happened second, right? I hope I said correct. Okay, here are my examples. First, I had never seen such a beautiful beach before I went to Kauai, which means first I never seen the beach beautiful, the most beautiful beaches of the world before, and then I went to Kauai. It was the second action. Here, the keyword before, then the emphasis in this structure on the complete action, right? But here, another example, when I use past perfect continuous. So, I'd been traveling for 2 years before I first went to Kauai. Here, I emphasize on the duration of action in the past, right? So, of course, I'd been traveling first for 2 years, like all over the world, and only after that I first went to Kauai. It was the second action, but the main emphasis on the duration of first action. So past perfect in passive voice, I would say the most beautiful beach hadn't been seen by me, for example, before I went to Kauai. I'm not really sure that it sounds really good in English. I mean, this example, but for me it was really more important to understand the difference, how I can, how to say that, to play words, right? How I can replace them and how I can use different types of sentence to understand how the meaning can be changed and how it can be understood, right? So past perfect, I think, sounds less emotional, less emotive, more formal. Uh, and for example, the next sentence, Tommy, Tommy knew the country so well because he had he has visited it several times. So first, he had visited this country many times, and second action, he got to know this country very well. Past perfect continuous. Tommy had been visiting the country for several times before he knew the country so well. I'm not really sure that it's a good example, but I hope so. And past perfect in passive voice. The country had been known by Tommy very well because um, it has been it had been visited by him several times. Oh, it's a terrible, I know it's a terrible example. Perhaps I should have said like the country was known by Tommy very well because it has been it had I'm sorry, we're talking about the past action. It doesn't relate it to present, right? So I have to say it had been visited by him for several times. And the next example, very interesting actually. I forgot about that I can also make my emphasis on the duration of an action in the past before something else using past perfect form, such as, here is an example, because I was sure I can use these emphasis only by using past perfect continuous, but here is my example. Um, by the time Jim asked Julie out on a date, they had known each other for nearly 6 years. In past perfect continuous, I would say, before Jim asked Julie out of the date, they'd been working together for nearly 6 years. And here is another example. Um, Pum, pum. Julie had been asked out on a date by Jim by the time they knew each other for nearly 6 years. So, in another example, by using past perfect. In 2016, Rachel had lived in New York City for 4 years. And another example, in 1995, Tom and Rachel hadn't met each other yet. So, it's very interesting that we also can emphasize on the duration of time, on the duration of an action by using past perfect. But once again, we have to remember that there must be a specified period of time, a concrete period of time, right? And a concrete duration of an action. Well, I think this is it for today. I'm very sorry for such a long video. See you a little bit later, and bye bye.